Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala. I come to you from the Pacific Northwest where I live with my partner, our 2 kitties, and 2 adopted Mustangs. Information about the Wild Horse Adoption Program will be in the episode description box. This podcast covers knitting projects, my horsemanship journey, and my other passions like vegetable gardening and bicycling. If you're new here, I hope you find the content interesting. If you're a returning viewer, it's always great to have old friends. The format of this channel typically includes musings on an early walk to the barn to feed the horses, then knitting content, some catch up on the horsemanship journey, and finally more musings or maybe a little bicycling footage if I was lucky enough to get out. Enjoy, and I hope to see you soon. Good morning, YouTube friends, horse friends, knitting friends. Today is Friday, what day is it today? It must be May 16th, 2025. It's my day off. I work 4 10s, which is lucky for me. Before I put this shirt on, I want to share with you this sweater that I'm wearing. So this is a raglan sweater I made out of scrap yarn and minis held double with a light colored sock yarn. And one thing I didn't like about it was the collar area. It was too sloppy. So it kind of grew because it's superwash. Not surprising. So yesterday I fixed it and I just crocheted this little edging around it out of, it's actually a worsted weight wool. And you might recognize this yarn from when I did the bind off on my owl poncho. It's the same kind of scrap yarn. It's a Cascade 220. It's a little bit itchy, but I like having the collar up closer to my neck and covering my t-shirt. So I'm going to put this shirt on over it because, as you know, I always start this podcast, or most of the time I start this podcast by walking out to the barn to feed the horses. And if you have horses or other animals that need hay, you know that hay loves knitted garments. So I can at least try to protect it from that and not bring too much hay in the house, which I will do because I'm also wearing hand knitted socks and I'm going to stuff them in my boots, which undoubtedly already have hay in them. We've had a bit of rain lately, just a little bit. It hasn't been too bad. It's really making the lawn grow. I probably should mow twice a week, but I don't. I only mow once a week. So pardon me while I try to get my boot on. It is about, 6:15 a.m. So pretty light. Birds are out. And today, I've been trying to figure out the routine for the horses. Normally what I do, and I am going to do this morning, I feed them, I lock them in their separate breakfast pens adjacent to each other, so Odin at least gets a little quality time alone. Bragi needs to be in Odin's lap constantly, and it gives him some time to think about independence. My trainer's coming today. We've been working on trailer loading. We've been going at a very slow pace for Bragi, and he seems to be retaining it and accepting it very well at this pace. Last weekend, Odin and I went on a trail ride. We'll try to include a picture at the end of this episode. Anyway, Randy and I have some errands to run after work, so I need to think about how I'm going to schedule in their turnout time into the pasture and feeding time before we leave, because we'll be gone for most of the evening, and also the lesson with Bragi. So that's one thing I've been kind of stewing about this morning. As far as knitting projects go, I have 3 works in progress. I need to get a traveling project together because we are leaving for Wisconsin next Thursday. My youngest nephew is graduating from high school, so we'll be over there for a week, which reminds me there won't be a full episode next Friday. I may just put together some snippets from our trip. And I think that's about all that's going on. So one of my errands today, before we do our errand tonight, is that I need to go to the yarn store to buy some knitting needles. Isn't that exciting? There's a new yarn store in my local town. Kind of excited about that. Good morning, O. I think O is ready for breakfast, so I'm going to get to feeding. Hey friends, welcome to the knitting portion of my podcast. Harley is here and Herbert is a little bit over there. Not sure if you can see that. So I gave you a preview of what I wanted to talk about on the walk to the barn. I don't have any horsemanship videos or much to report this week. As I mentioned last time, I was pet sitting for part of the week, and that made my day very busy. So I had to care for my horses, my neighbor's horses, her dog, and 2 cats. And she lives about a couple miles away, so it's definitely not just walk next door. I spent the night a couple nights for the sake of the dog, and that was okay. It was challenging, I think, just in terms of trying to fit that routine in my work day and just kind of our regular day. But it was fine. The regular pet sitter came home Wednesday evening, and so I've had a couple days off now. So let's talk about the knitting. I'm not sure if you were able to see what I did to the neckline of this sweater, so I will try to show it here. So you can just see I just crocheted a few rounds, just single crochet, and I just brought it in tighter. I used like a, what do you call it? A crochet 2 together technique that I'm not sure it's the right technique. It's the technique that works for me. And it seemed to work just in terms of bringing this neckline in closer. So like I said, this is a scrappy sweater. I had 1 skein of a kind of a tonal fingering weight yarn, superwash, that I held with a whole bunch of scraps, advents. There's some, I can see there's some advent yarn here, probably some scrappy sock yarn here, and some self-striping yarn down here, and so on. And there's some, this is some advent yarn. I can tell because it's got some sparkles in it, and this is definitely an advent yarn, possibly Polka Dot Creek. So shall I show you what's on the needle? So I have no finished objects right now. I can't remember if this was, I haven't looked at my notes from last week to see if I had actually cast this on. This is the Lola top. My last week's episode was called Patterns something like knitting patterns I would knit again. So this is a repeat. This is the Lola top. It's by Veronika Lindberg, who is a Finnish knitwear designer. And this is the front. I can show, in my show notes, I'll put a picture of the finished one I have. It's also pink and white, a lighter kind of pink. So, and it sits pretty high. So this is meant to go like to your collarbones, which is where it is. I am using I'm using Chowgu red lace needles. The main is a US 6 or 4 millimeter, and the ribbing, I think I'm using a little bit bigger. I think it calls for 2.5, and I'm using 2 3/4. So I've just started the back, and the back is a little bit lower than the front and a little bit wider. It's made out of cotton yarn. It's meant for cotton yarn to be held double if it's a kind of more of a sport weight. This is leftover yarn from the float tote, which I'll show in a minute. And it is Loops and Threads classic cotton. So I did a gauge swatch and my conversion was like 0.83. So I had fewer stitches per inch than the gauge. So that's how I figured the gauge swatch. Hopefully I figured that out in the right direction. And that is where I'm at now. So you do the front piece in the flat and the back piece in the flat, and then you join in the round. And then I assume at some point, I could read the directions because I have them right here. Yeah, you join the upper, front, and back, and then you just knit in the body. And then I can't remember how. Then I think you do straps to connect the front and the back together. Yeah, shoulder straps. That's what that is. So this is what it looks like. This is the pattern designer wearing it, and you can see the front and the back. So it's got great coverage, and it's a nice top for the summer. So I can recommend that as something you should knit again. Excuse me. Speaking of repeated knits, this is the second raglan kind of scrappy sweater I've made. There's no short row shaping. I just used a formula by Knitting Fool. I think they have kind of that website has a raglan recipe based on your gauge and the size you want. So I've used that. And both sweaters have turned out fine. Like I said, I miscalculated the cast on for the neck, but I managed to fix it. So another one that I think is knit worthy twice is the Love Note sweater. So I am still in the process of ripping out, frogging this. This is the, I just totally forgot what the name of it is. It was like the Camilla sweater or something like that. I didn't like the way it fit. It was too big. So I ripped out this much so far and still have this to go. And this will be enough yarn for a Love Note, which is a pattern by Tin Can Knits. So looking forward to that. Haven't cast that on yet. I may take this to Wisconsin with me to just continue frogging it. So maybe I will put that in the travel pile. What else am I working on? Oh, here's the float tote. You'll recognize these colors from the Lola top. I am knitting a colorwork sweater out of this book. I am holding, the colorwork is superwash self-striping yarn. It is this top here, which I have a short sleeve version as shown here that I've already knitted, and I do wear it. I am knitting, this is intended to be a long sleeve version. So I'm using self-striping yarn by Freckled Whimsey, and this is the back. So there is short row shaping. And I'll show you the yarn here. So Freckled Whimsey, this is the contrast color. And this is the main color. The needles are ChowGoo red lace, of course. The ribbing was a size 5, 3.75, and the main body is a US size 6, so 4mm. That seems to be my go-to sweater knitting needles. And the yarn this is one nice feature about the float tote. The reason why it's called a float tote, it is for color work, which has floats that you need to carry, and you put your yarn balls in these cups, these crocheted cups that is attached to a tray in the bottom of this. The tray is supposed to have magnetic snaps that connect the cups. I bought the wrong kind of snaps, so I just sewed them in. And it works fine. The tray comes out. I haven't found I needed to, so a lot of times when I get started, I'll pull out the top and just sort of move it around until the yarn's in the right position. And that works really well for me. So I have about, let's see, 15 more rows, 18 more rows, no, 16 more rows until the yoke is finished, and then I'll start the color work section on the body. The third project I have on the needles, I think I mentioned this last time, is that this is for Scrappy Sunday. The bag is made by my mom. It's a quilted bag it's lined with this nifty zipper, and there's even a pocket in here that holds some hand lotion. So these socks are from the 52 weeks of socks. I'm not sure if I shared that last time. It is pattern number 7, called Rocking Chair. Started these on May 4th. Hopefully I won't drop the pencil out. So those are the socks. And I typically only knit them on, lately on Sundays. So this is the first sock. I am knitting 2 at a time, which is why I have to go to the yarn store to get another pair of sock knitting needles for my travel. Yes. So I've done 2 colors so far. The cuff is garter. And I am working on the second cuff on the second sock. I use ChowGoo red lace, magic loop. These are size 0, so 2 millimeter. The yarn is Polka Dot Creek. It's part of the Blanket Club from 2024. So it's kind of these teal colors that I like very much. There's 9. So I divided the pattern into 9 sections. And I'll continue to share my progress on that. I'm not going to take this project with me because of the size of the book. Just a little bit too hard to pack around. If I had one of my other project bags that held that, it would be fine. So what am I going to take with me? I am going to take, this was part of my retail therapy when I injured my shoulder, Wool and Women. So this is Bloom Where You're Planted. This is the March Wool and Women box. And sorry, I'm going to crinkle here. I need to wind up the yarn. The theme was Denim and Daisies. And the yarn is this color. Isn't that pretty? And it comes with a pattern that I downloaded. I'll show you the stitch markers here in a moment. The pattern is, so I do need to find, it's the Buttercup sock pattern. The design is by, it says the pattern is inspired by rabbits that run wild in the countryside in spring. Buttercup is our little bunny and she likes to explore the grassy meadows. So this is Craft House Magic YouTube channel is where you can find the tutorials. So I'm still trying to find who the designer is. Oh, Ellie Jones. So I will need to go to my yarn stash and figure out what I can find for the heel flap, or the contrast yarn, probably just for the heel flap. That's what I'm going to do. This also came with some stitch markers, so some daisy stitch markers. So really fun. I'm not getting I got 3 months worth of the Woolen Women bags. I mean, I don't need project bags. My mom makes me a bunch, but like I said, I was just feeling sorry for myself, and this turns out it's going to be a great travel project. What else do I, that's all the knitting, really. Yes, that is all the knitting that I've been working on. I don't anticipate having a finished object for you for a while, since these are, you know, the socks are kind of sporadic projects that I work on, and the other two are garments, which always take a little bit longer, as you're probably aware. Horsemanship-wise, I didn't have much chance to work with the boys. I worked with Bragi a little bit yesterday, just on some easy desensitization, easy for me, desensitization. He really struggles with that. He's not sure what he is supposed to do, so I have to try to help him find the answer. And it's funny, my camera just stops randomly. Anyway, I help him find the answer by removing pressure when he does when he answers the question correctly. I remove the pressure. So I either stop moving the rope or whatever it is that I have in my hand, or sometimes I'll just turn away, and that removes pressure too. So that's, my trainer has commented that when I work with him even that little bit, she notices a difference in how soft and receptive he is, rather than, and soft meaning relaxed rather than tense. I rode Odin last Sunday with a couple friends on a trail ride. It was really great. If you've seen a couple of my most recent videos, at the end I shared some exercises that we were doing to help him be more supple. He's almost always in a defensive posture when I ask him to move. I mean, his preferred mode is standing still. So when I ask him to move, he automatically gets defensive, but I'm trying to help him to be more supple and round rather than stiff and straight. So we had worked on that a lot last week, and then I went on the trail ride on Sunday, and we haven't been on a trail ride since I injured myself in January, and he was kind of antsy-dancy, and he kept doing these sideways motions, these beautiful, very round sideways motion. I was really impressed. So we got on the trail, and he was all about it. He's like, yeah, I want to go. He was in the lead for most of it. We rode for about an hour and a half and covered close to 7 miles. Did a little bit of trotting. It was great. It was great for both of us. He wasn't taxed at all. I know I was a little bit concerned, like, well, he hasn't been out. Is he going to be up for this? Is this going to be too much for him? but he was hardly taxed at all. He was hardly sweaty and only as sweaty as the other two horses in our group. So I'll share that at the end of this video. And yeah, like I said, hopefully we'll have a trailer loading lesson today. I never really know until we have it, or what's planned. Last time we got to work with both Bragi and Odin, which was really great. I hope we get to do that again. That's really pretty ideal. Other than that, I'm going to run some errands here in a little while, let the horses out for their grazing time. They'll have their grazing time early today since we have plans this evening, and that will be the day. So hope you are all doing well. Hope if you are a gardener, your garden is thriving. I need to clean out some greens that overwintered that have now bolted, and hopefully replace them with some more summer type vegetables and fruits, like maybe some melon, some cucumber, and squash. So those are my plans. Take care, everyone.